what's going through your mind in terms of like the profitability of this?
Don't think about anything like that. I had no idea how to pay taxes. I had no idea about finances. All we knew was more was coming in than was going out. Everything was purely instinctive, everything at the start.
Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to the CEO thing in a bit because I really want to kind of explore that. So going back to sort of imagining kind of 2014, 2015 before the NEC show, what did the team look like in Gymshark?
Ooh. There was myself and Lewis, who started the business. There was my brother. So we'd around 2015, I think it was my brother. So basically my brother was the first employee, and the whole thing of Joe joining the business was, we're at the event, we need someone back at the the ranch to sort of manage the stock. And then that was it really. Like a few friends ended up joining and doing, you know, bits here and there. But it was just, everyone would just get involved in everything. Yeah. Like if there was a busy day, we would jump on customer service. Like everyone would finish the end of the day, sat in a circle on their laptops, and they would answer customer queries. So it really varied. I've just remembered, by the way, it was 2012, not 2015, that we did that first event. 2012, 2013. So it was around that sort of era.
Okay, fair play. So you had sort of a team of maybe 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, so it was in that first event, it was like 2 or 3. And then as it developed, then it was like, okay. And then we'd started to invest more in the warehouse because we had our own warehouse and we would ship our own product. Okay. Then people would basically manage customer service and deliveries and stuff.
At what point did you get the warehouse? Like, that must have been a big expense.
Yeah, so 2012, 2013, just before that first event, that was when we got like a shed, basically.
Right, okay.
Honestly, and that, so it was actually not particularly great. It was a shed on an industrial estate, and I didn't realise until about 3 or 4 months in, the whole thing was built out of asbestos.
Oh no.
And like the bloke next door, like this lovely lad, like 80 years old he was just like drilling through the walls, through the asbestos walls, and all asbestos was just flaking everywhere. So that's probably not great for my health. So it was an old asbestos shed in the middle of nowhere on an industrial estate, and it cost us about 300 quid a month, I think. 250, 300 quid a month. Okay. Then after that, we ended up going into a more professional sort of place. We went from, that was 300 square feet, and then the next one we actually upgraded to a 3,000 square foot warehouse. And what was great about that is it had a small room at the front of it with a radiator in. And if anyone's worked in like a shed through the winter, it was ice cold. So to have a radiator was amazing, because what we used to have to do, we'd have the front door of our old shed, we'd leave the door open and we'd stick a diesel Sealy heater in there. So you go over next door, you get your diesel from the pump, and you'd fill it up, and then it would just blast heat in there. But again, sat in an asbestos shed with a diesel heater blowing at you is not the most exciting way of spending your late teenage years or early 20s. So to have a radiator was game changing.
The radiator was game changing, right. And I guess, was it you and your mates making the clothes?
Yes.
Like hand making the clothes?
Yeah. So
like getting cloth and like cutting it up. And
so so the sewing would be done at home, essentially. And then we would print generally at the I don't know what you call it, warehouse.
Wow, okay. So when you're in those early days and you're investing in things like the radiator, the warehouse and stuff.
Yes.
What's going through your mind in terms of like the profitability of this? Like,
don't think about anything like that.
Okay.
Didn't think, I had no idea how to pay taxes. I had no idea about finances. All we knew was more was coming in than was going out. Okay. And everything beyond that is just, at the time it was fluff. Clearly now that's not the case. But everything was purely instinctive, everything at the start.
Okay. So you start off as like a band of brothers, like, you know, a handful of people in a shed. Yeah. Where a radiator is a game-changing expense, a game-changing addition to the business. And now Gymshark is a $1 billion+ company. You're the new CEO of it. Like, how many employees do you now have?
We're just over 700.
700, and you sell all over the world with offices all around the world. That's got to feel pretty wild. Like,
it's cool. It's cool. Honestly, I still walk into the HQ. So we've got a gorgeous HQ, and there's the sort of the big logo on the front. Over the road, we've got our lifting club. So we've got like a gym, manufacturing facility, studios. I do walk in, and like I do still get goosebumps because it's such an amazing place. And there's a buzz. Like, you've got to visit, because as soon as you walk in the door, there's a buzz there, and everyone's lovely. Everyone's pulling in the same direction. Everyone really understands why we do what we do. Yeah. Everyone understands the area that they sort of fit in with that sort of wider plan. Okay. It's such a lovely place to be.
So it's interesting you say that, like, everyone's pulling in the same direction, because I feel like this is an issue we're having as we expanded from 3 people to 12 people, whereby I'm now starting to do things like defining our vision and where do we want to be in X number of years, and KPIs and goals and all this stuff that in the past I would have thought this is all just corporate bullshit, like who cares about any of that. Presumably, what was your journey through kind of being more businessy about it?
So what you're going through, so we did that. I used to hate the word corporate, and you're going through, from reading between the lines, what I actually think is the most difficult change. And I think this is one of the most difficult things for any entrepreneur or business person. And by the way, not even owning your own business. If you're running or working in a great business, it's so difficult to sort of distribute that control. And I think those that can do that, then after that, it's not plain sailing, but if you've then done that, it's like, it's like a muscle memory, right? If you continue to do that, I think scaling becomes so much easier. Okay. I'll give you, so my sort of breakdown, I sort of break it down into 3 areas. And I think every great business person needs to reinvent themselves over and over again. So you can't become too tied in or emotionally attached to sort of, I'm going to say, who you are in many respects. So at the start, I found I had a great creative vision. I had a great idea of where I wanted us to be. And I felt like I dragged the business to where I wanted us to be. And that sounds a bit sort of direct, but it could be having a great creative vision. It could be great at knowing product. It could be great at whatever it is. But because you tend to be a one-man band or there's not many people involved, you just do what the hell you want, when you want, and it's very instinctive. Now, you'll then get to a stage where you've got people around you. It might be 5 people, it might be 10 people, it might be 30 people. And an instinctive way of running things is still great, but you can't just do things on a whim because you fancy it. You have to then learn to work in a team. And I don't mean, when I say in a team, I mean you are part of the team. And anyone that's managed a team knows that the team doesn't work for you, you work for them. And you need to make sure that you're really understanding how to work with each different type of person. So some people will love to be organized and they will love lots of different catch-ups, and some people will be highly creative, some people will be highly logical, some people you'll have to spend 6 weeks trying to buy them into a new idea, some people you'll have to spend 6 seconds. And it's about learning how to work with all these different people. So you've gone from dragging the business to where you wanted it to be, learning to work with new people, and then it sounds like to a degree what you're going through, / the next stage, which is like, okay, you know how to work with people. How do we galvanize them around a vision or a mission? How do we make them understand where they fit in with that? How do we make them understand that, the team that we're working with, touch wood, is greater than the sum of its parts, and really understanding how to articulate yourself and your vision, and essentially learning how to inspire people. And I think that's, again, it's very tough. And I hear people a lot of the time saying like, one facet of their personality, that's just me, what am I like? I'm a bit unorganized. Well, when you're at that level, there's no excuse for being unorganized. Yes, I am unorganized, but you do something about it. You either fix it yourself or you build the team in a way that negates that weakness. Does that make sense? And it's I think it gets a bit more serious at that point. And you have to learn new skills. And to be honest, that's why I love the job so much and feel like I've got the best job in the world, because you're constantly learning new things and constantly reinventing yourself. It sounds like that's what you're going through now a bit.
Yeah, it seems like a real shift in where my default used to be, I want to do something, all right, I'll do it. And I was like, I want to do something, okay, let's figure out why I want to do this thing. Let's figure out what the actual, what good looks like. Let's figure out who I can give this project to. Let's give them ownership over it in a way that they'll feel more motivated to do it. I mean, kind of get out of the way and be there to kind of consult them if they need it, but not step on their toes too much.
Do you know what the most exciting thing about that period is, right? You'll have it. There'll be a few things that will happen, and it happened to me. Someone will do something, you'll trust them with it, they'll do it poorly, and it will break your heart.
Yeah.
But someone will do something that you didn't think was the right thing to do, and it will be infinitely better than any ideas that you would have come up with. And that is one of the most fulfilling and incredible experiences ever, because then you're like, okay, now we're a team.
Yes. Yeah, I've had that a few times. I often describe this feeling because I teach people how to be part-time YouTubers, and one of the things I'm very bullish on is to outsource editing. ASAP. And everyone is very resistant. Oh, but I like editing. I like doing it myself. I enjoy spending 20 hours a week doing my editing. And I'm like, look, guys, the moment you outsource editing, just that feeling when you upload raw footage of yourself mumbling through a video on Google Drive, and the next day you get back an edited video, and it's actually really good. It just like blows your mind, and then you think, oh my god, like I've just like my whole world is now open. And I guess what you're describing is that at scale when you have a team that can execute stuff.
Exactly, like I said, and I love it. I love working with so many different types of people. And there was a point a few years ago, basically, when I moved into a role as the chief marketing officer at Gymshark. And chief marketing at the time was all your quantitative marketing, it was all your social media, and it was all data. I remember going into this role thinking, love marketing, love social media, not a clue where to start with data. And to be honest, it sounds a bit boring, but I ended up working with the data team. And that ended up being the team I loved working with the most, because they would run rings around me at the start. And like I would come in with all my stupid, irrational ideas that just made no sense and would have flopped instantly. And they would challenge me, and it made me a better person, and in terms of sharpening up my ideas and my concepts. But equally, it meant that I learned the power of what they do and, you know, the validity of it. So it was massively fulfilling to me to work with a team that I didn't expect to enjoy working with or be good at working with, and to be able to do that.
Nice. So when you're the kind of founder of the business and like the owner of the business, how did you kind of get to that point where your role was chief marketing officer rather than straight to CEO? Like what was going through your mind there?
So we started to, the business grew rapidly, right? We went from, I mean, we've gone from bedroom to $500 million revenue in 8 years, I think it was. It was like rapid growth. So during that growth period, it becomes very evident that things start breaking if you don't have great people to manage these things. So what we started to do was we built essentially a chiefs team of individuals that manage and run the different areas of the business. So a chief product officer, a chief brand officer, you know, people, finance, all these different things. And it's just through necessity. It's less of a case of, listen, I think huge applause to a business that can see ahead and build that team out in front of themselves. We were just at the point of, we need strength in this business, otherwise things are going to fail.
Okay. And so when you were bringing people on, you were bringing on like C-level people for like executive roles and for the people in HR and finance and legal and the whole shebang.
And it was a balance, right? So some people we were bringing in with brilliant experience. And then we were also identifying great people in the business that were hugely devoted to the business, incredibly intelligent and competent, that would then basically be able to make that leap up to that level as well. So there's a brilliant blend of sort of experience and inexperience in that team as well.
Okay. How did you, because I guess you were the one doing the hiring initially.
Yes. How
did you get, so, and I ask because this is a problem I'm having, like, how do you hire for a role that you don't have experience in, where you're trying to hire someone who is like good at that role? If you get what I mean.
Yeah. So I was really lucky. So our sort of current sort of out-moving CEO, Steve, he joined the business purely on gut instinct because it felt like he was the right person to be in the business. And conveniently, he was brilliant at all the things that I was bad at. Yep. So that one hire then allowed every other hire in finance, ops, logistics, all the back end of the business then went through him rather than the front end ones that went through me. So it was like one solve for everything beyond that, which was massive.
So were you like, what were you looking for when you hired Steve? Like, what was his role initially?
So I wanted someone that would basically help, we're going to say, professionalize the business. Because at the time, it was just, there was no hierarchy, no structure. A group of people that, you know, went in, did a bit of brand on the morning, bit of social media, event here and there, package on the evening, answer your emails and go to bed. It was literally just carnage and chaos, as I think all businesses are in the early days. And then he came in and he had genuine corporate experience. However, it didn't come across like corporate experience. He wasn't like, you know, your typical corporate guy, suited and booted sort of thing. He'd worked in Reebok. But he also, even though he didn't understand social media particularly well, he understood the power of brand and growing a robust business and a great brand. So we sort of got comfortable with him, and he ended up doing, I think it was a day a month, and 2 days a month, and 3 days a month. And it was a very organic sort of shift into him joining the business full time.
Oh, so he started off as like a coach consultant type.
Yeah, exactly that. So it wasn't like, boom, you're in the business every single day. Okay, and that really, really helped us because it allowed us to get comfortable with him to get comfortable with us, and just to get to know one another.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I've got a couple of kind of business coaches type people now who are mentors who've been doing this for a few years. And I meet with them maybe once every other week. And every time I talk to them, it's like, oh, my mind gets blown by just all of the stuff all of the unknowns I just didn't realize things like, restructuring our organizational chart, and how when you have the, there was a time, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, where I was chatting to this guy's name's Rohan, and I was like, yeah, at the moment this is what the business looks like. It looks like this, and it just felt a bit of chaos. And within about half an hour, he just asked a load of questions, and we kind of on that whiteboard over there just drafted out this structure, which just made so much sense and brought so much clarity.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe how much clarity I've now got in my mind from just drawing this diagram on a board.
It's so good. It makes such a difference. But you'll find, like, when you work with genuinely brilliant people like that, they revolutionize teams, businesses, brands, everything. Like, so many people talk about all the different nuts and bolts of businesses and brands, but ultimately it's literally just people. It comes down to people, and it's so important that you understand how to work with people and work with great people. Similarly, I was chatting to someone the other week, and I was talking about that he worked with one of the most successful business people of sort of like my parents' generation, and I just said, right, what do they do? Just in a sentence, like, cut all the bullshit sort of thing. One sentence, what do they do really well? And they said they attracted great people and then left them alone. And I just thought that was so cool. And I think, in its most simplistic form, that's what any great entrepreneur or business person does. And they do it in different ways. So some people attract through insane levels of competency. Some people do it through charisma. Some people do it from being an incredible creative or an incredible organizer or all these different things. But ultimately, it just does come down to that.
Nice. Okay, so you were Chief Marketing Officer for how long in Gymshark?
Oh, God, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Year, 2 years, something like that.
What was your role before then?
So I did Chief of Brand. Yeah. Then I came out of brand. A guy called Noel did it. Then I moved around and messed around with product for a little bit. And that was a great period for me, because that was where I was like really in the nuts and bolts. And I didn't actually have a job. And I'll never forget this. There was a particular product that we wanted to make. And I'm quite impatient. And it was a case of like, you can either wait for these guys for 6 weeks to make it, or we can jump on a plane, fly over to Istanbul, spend a week in Istanbul, sit in the factories and make it. And I'm like, too fucking right, I'm doing that. Do you know what I mean? So it was like that sort of really impulsive role, product, brand, moving around, events. I then went from that into the chief marketing role. Marketing was great because I worked all with social, which I had done anyway. I worked with the data team and really understood data. And then I went from there I did chief product officer for a little bit of work in tech. And this is where I am today.